Alright, what's up friends? Thank you for joining me for my follow-up review of Final Fantasy 15. I hope you can stick around for some time on this one because I do have a lot to say, and I guess I'm going to jump into it. I have a bunch of notes, and I do need to say first off, all the complaints that I had from my original review are still something I have felt through the entire game. That never really changed, but Final Fantasy 15 has been a bizarre experience, and I thought I was playing through it, and I thought I was forcing myself through it because of hype, but it wasn't that. It was mostly because of the familiarity, you know, and being a longtime fan of Final Fantasy 15 and expecting something new and to go into something new as a Final Fantasy game. So it was just a bizarre experience because of how many things I hated about it. But I can say this, Final Fantasy 15 would have been a masterpiece. A masterpiece. A masterpiece. If it wasn't for the enormous list of jumbled gameplay mechanics and just sloppiness. It's weird, and it sucks to say that because it is weird, and this is why my first review was really hard to do. And but I have all those, as I feel, legitimate complaints. But after having played through the whole game, my mind has been blown. I love Final Fantasy 15. I also hate it. There's a lot to hate about it, but that's not what this video is about exactly. I do actually, the funny, weird thing, crazy thing is I do actually have more complaints, but I'm not going to go through all those on this video. I just wanted to share my experience as a final, complete experience. I just beat the game last night at a little over 67 hours, and I could have beaten the game in a shorter amount of time. I actually was way over leveled for the final content missions, which turns out to be, for me, was the best thing to do. And part of this, I can say I both hate and love the game. I'm going to read through my notes here because I did have some stuff that I had, because I'll ramble. So I have actually stuff to say. I only really started to enjoy the game after switching it to the easy difficulty and being higher level than the creatures I was fighting. I don't remember exactly when or how I got to be higher level than what I was fighting, but it probably all started when I switched to easy and did a bit of farming of enemies my own level and quickly leveled up. And I cannot remember how it happened because it did take a while. I was almost 20 hours into the game where I was still struggling. And the systems in place were really weird to go along with the way the quests are handled. The difference in levels of creatures that you fight and the difference in levels of quests as you pick them up are scattered. But you know, at some point I got, especially after switching to easy, and this is trying to play the game as an action game. If you have not watched my first review, I talk about my first review initially is called Not What I Expected, because the game isn't what I expected. But I guess part of that is my fault. You know, I can accept part of it being my fault. But so to treat the game more as an action game than you would on normal, easy kind of fixes that a little bit. The game still oftentimes too easy or too hard. There's no like middle ground, which is why I lowered the difficulty, because it's either too easy or too hard, which is crazy. I love that the game starts off as an open world and then gets really linear in the final chapters. It makes it easier to focus on the main events and not get sidetracked easily by side stuff. That's for me. That's my experience. That's how I look at it, because a lot of times when I play an open world game such as Far Cry or Watch Dogs, really fun open worlds that I love, Infamous, I easily get sidetracked by content, and I forget what happened in the story. Like, I'll get 50 hours into a game. Mad Max, over 100 hours played. I recently beat it like a week ago. Could not remember the story at all. You know, so that happens. So I actually really like that about this game, because once you're nearing the end of the game, and actually, like, I think it's like 8 to 10 hours. I'm trying. It might be less. It might be 5 to 8 hours. It's kind of long. It's lengthy. Once you get to chapter 9. I think it was chapter 9 plus. 9 through 15 was like this straightforward kind of a thing, and it was long. It was pretty long. It wasn't, you know, I spent a lot more time in the open world, but the getting into the story and going through the end was a long and amazing journey. It was incredible. But Chapter 13 was terrible. I don't know why this note isn't. Oh, it's way down there. Chapter 13 itself was really bad, and that sucks because it was kind of near the end. And as I was playing through it, I think it took me like at least an hour. As I was playing through it, I kept thinking, this is your finale. You're building up to the end of the game, and this is what you give me. And you know, it kind of sucked because as it started out, it was kind of Matrixy. Like when I started like chapter 13, I thought I entered the Matrix. I was like, whoa. And then a little bit into it, it turns into more of a Resident Evil kind of a thing to it. And I did love that they try to change it up a bit. You know, that's what this whole game is kind of like. It's classic Final Fantasy in a whole new setting and theme, and there a lot of stuff fails, but it in my opinion, a lot of stuff was just too weird. But it turned out. I mean, I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna do all the side stuff. That's my plan, anyways. I'm planning to. I got the flying car. That is something I'll get into. Anyways, so chapter 13 was a weird one because this was leading up to the finale of the game, and it sucked. It was terrible. It was really boring and tedious. Man, then it sucks. It just sucks. As if it was like a side dungeon, like an early side dungeon kind of a thing that they did, it probably would have been more okay. But as a finale lead up, it was terrible. I did like that they tried to change it up and give you something a little different, but it was dragged out and it was tedious as hell. It was, you know, so that kind of sucked. The clunky UI and how the game is handled is what makes it feel like it's not an open world when it is. When tracking one quest, you won't know if another quest is in the same area, unless you already are aware that you have multiple quests in the same exact area, which, unless you're familiar with the entirely open world, I couldn't tell like which quest was going to be near another quest, and I kept forgetting I didn't remember ever to check my quest log to see if I had another quest in the similar area. So unless you did that, and unless you actually manually switched your quest to track the other quest, you would not know that you're in the area. So there was actually a few times where I had to go back to this. There was a few times where I had to go back to a quest a couple times, a quest area, and then there was one quest area I had to go back 4 separate times to the same exact area. Although there were like a couple of those quests I actually picked up after the other quest that I had at the same spot, so that's not too bad. But it's definitely weird. There's a clunky system. It's jumbled, and that's what made it. There's an enormous list of things that made it so hard to put up with. But I did. I'm so glad that I played through this game, and I'm gonna keep playing it because now at this point, you know, almost 70 hours in, I'm actually used to this system. I'm used to it. When I was first playing it and expecting it to be an open world Final Fantasy and expecting it to be something that is not, and it's like it's trying to be, it made it a very hard experience to get through for a while. For my first 20 hours, it was hard, and then I got used to it, and then I kept pushing through. And after I was out leveled everything, it actually made it more fun. And it wasn't because it was too easy. It was just because I was able to actually enjoy the system. When you're fighting everything that's either too easy or too hard, it's more frustrating and weird and it was just bad. It was really bad. Let me see. After the credits, thank you. There was a scene, and it's like one of those before the end of the credits. It's after the initial credits, and then before the like enormous list of credits. There's a scene, and I'm not spoiling anything here. I'm not gonna. Well, there was a thank you. The group is talking to each other, and Noctis is telling his group what he feels about them, and I actually cried. I actually just think about it, and I don't remember the words, but it's like it was so emotional, and that was on top of the main story, the ending, up into the end, and it was an incredible experience. And this scene where Noctis is telling his friends how he feels about them, to me, it also felt like it was the developers thanking their fans. It was just beautiful. That's what it felt like to me. I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like. It was perfect. It was amazing. It was so perfect. All right, here's some small details in the game that I really enjoyed. The top of the car when it goes up or comes down, it's convertible, and depending on the weather, I love the animation of it. It's just a very small thing. I love the animation. Pretty cool. and kind of like the Noctis telling his friends what he felt. There's a thing in there's a few parts in the game where I came across these tombstones. One of them, Noctis actually, they had a couple different sayings when they went up to the tombstone and read the name on the tombstone. And one of them, Noctis says, "I'm sorry, thanks for everything." And I had no idea who the character was. Maybe if I paid more attention to the actual characters in the game and the wiki, and I knew like every little detail, I might have known who that character was that he said, "I'm sorry, thanks for everything." But I often, when I play any video game, often at times like that, I wonder if these tombstones are like paying respects to real life relatives and friends of the developers, and that's their way they put them in the game. Maybe. I mean, I often think about that. Weather effects is another small thing I really like. There's not really a whole lot of weather effects, but when it does get rainy, especially in the city, like when it gets rainy out in the world, it's very pretty. It's not incredible. It's very pretty though. I mean, the whole game is beautiful. It's some scenes are far more impressive than others, but as a whole, the game is really beautiful. When it rains, especially in the city, the glisten off the ground and it looks so real. Like. It might be a little off, but it's very realistic. That just the glistening of the water and stuff off the pavement and then the everything. It's just beautiful stuff, man. Your clothing can get dirty. Your group's clothing can get dirty. I did not know this for probably at least the 20 hours in, 25 hours, could have been 30 hours in before I noticed this. And the only reason I noticed it was because you can actually change your outfits slightly. You have a few different outfits to pick while you're playing the game. And I switched one time. I did it a bunch, but I switched Noctis to his white t-shirt. And I did that a bunch. I actually played with that shirt for a few hours before I ever noticed that it actually got dirty. And I was like, whoa. And before I actually noticed that his shirt got dirty, I was going to merchants and I was picking up all these soundtracks and stuff like that, paint jobs for my car. And I noticed these like little accessories that would say something like, "keeps your clothes from getting dirty." And I was like, what? Why would anybody buy this crap? And I still think that. Even though now I know, like after I found out your clothes can get dirty, I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what that accessory is for, So it's a very small detail that is very cool. And the only reason I didn't notice it early on is because your clothes are black. So they do get dirty, but it's not as noticeable. When I've had my white shirt on, I was like, whoa, look at this dirty ass shirt from tumbling around in the dirt fighting monsters and stuff, It's pretty damn cool. Lots of little events. I'm gonna say one thing. I don't exactly think of this as a spoiler. Hopefully you don't either. Climbed a friggin' volcano. Climbed a volcano. Just doing that. There's a small thing. It's part of the quest. One of the quests. Climbing a volcano. Really, really cool. And there's lots of stuff like that. Lots of, like I said in my original review, the dungeons are actually really cool. There's a couple of them that are kind of, like the dungeons themselves are fun, but there's a couple of them that are like sewers, that you're like going to, I'm always bored by sewers. Like I don't want to go running through sewers, man. It's ugly. There's nothing pretty to look at. So as fun as the dungeon is, the scenery is like whatever, get it out of here. Hunter mission. Oh yeah. And another small thing, one of the missions that you do, this is, it can be spoilery-ish, but it's not. I wouldn't say this if I thought it was like a major spoiler, but there's this one hunting mission where you actually track down, it's like a main hunting mission. There's a lot of hunting missions where they're just hunting missions. They just get you XP and gil. But then there's like a couple hunting, there's probably a few that are kind of tied into main quests and stuff. Maybe not main quests, but they're questy. They're more questy and they're more story driven than some of the other hunting missions. Well, most of the other hunting missions. Anyway, there's one where you actually like track down a beast, and that was really cool. It does remind me though, one of the things that the game often does is forces you into these like slow moving parts that are really boring, and I think they're supposed to immerse you, but it more just takes me out and just annoys me that I have to walk like a snail, literally a snail's pace through these little crevices and whatever, and part of that was part of that mission, just a small part in the early part, but when you actually manually track the beast, it was really cool. Wasn't super long, but it was really cool. It was a very great experience. Another small thing that I liked, custom waypoints automatically set themselves at the last place you left, be it your campground, your car, or your chocobo. This was strange too. For a long time, it annoyed the crap out of me because I kept thinking I set a custom waypoint when I didn't. So that was another part of the clunky, jumbled UI stuff and gameplay stuff that really threw me off. But once I realized it was these custom waypoints that set themselves, and if you want to take it off, you have to manually take it off. You get sick and tired of seeing that little white dot that you don't need to go to. But I did like that it made it easy to keep track of where you just came from. It is a big world, so when you're going one way, I have a terrible sense of direction, when I play video games and stuff. So, I get lost really easy. So being able to find that dot where I left my car, because you run pretty far away a lot of the time. So I just thought that was a pretty neat little extra mechanic. It would be nicer if there were a lot more options in the game that lets you choose which kind of mechanics you would want on or off, and that would be one. I might leave it on, but there would be times where I would turn it off for sure. Once I'm super far in the game, I wouldn't need that anymore, and I'd rather just check my map and custom mark it myself. But I did think it was an interesting mechanic that they threw in there for you. And so far, those were all my just to follow up, and I wanted to focus more on the good this time. In the follow-up review, because I have a list of extra complaints to go into right here. Hopefully you'll stick around. This is, I'm not going to bash the game or anything, but the list goes on, and I do want to talk about this game, and the reason for this too, the main reason for this is because as many complaints as I have, I loved this game. So that's why during my streams I kept saying, I hate this game, I love this game, I hate this game, I love this game, and it's more than the jumbled mechanics and the UI that is really what did it. Just the way that everything plays out is so not what I would expect from an open world game. It is an open world game, but it's very different. It's Final Fantasy. And that's what makes it. That's what made it where I just kept playing through, because it was Final Fantasy. It feels like a Final Fantasy game, and after everything, it is an excellent game. It is still broken in so many ways. Anyways, let's get into some extra complaints here that I have to tell you about some of the more frustrating stuff. And I'm fine with it now. Like I said, I'm used to it now. I got used to the way the game plays, but there are issues, and there's a ridiculous amount of them. It's crazy. But I do love the game. Alright, so day-night cycle happens too fast. Nighttime seems to go by way slower than the daytime. Now that's what it felt like. Nighttime always felt like it lasted a lot longer than the daytime. Part of the problem here is you especially in the lower levels, until you out-level stuff. At nighttime, the harder creatures come out. This is something I actually look forward to going back to and spending a lot of time in the night, just having fun killing stuff, whatever. But so day-night cycles seem to happen too fast. As far as it was day, like days go by really fast, especially because every time it got to night and the dangerous creatures come out, you would have to go camp and make it day again. It's a little, so you're always forced to go reset the day, Limit of spells and summons. This is interesting. I have more stuff on the summons later on I'll get into. The limit of spells themselves, though, this is a thing too. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with the spells, but it is very basic compared to any other Final Fantasy game where you have like poison spells, and you just have a lot of spells that you don't even see. Like this stuff sticks to the elements, right? Fire, lightning, and cold. But in other Final Fantasies, you had these like fantastic, weird, different spells that were all, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So there is that. That is, definitely a noticeable difference in the Final Fantasy world, and it would have been amazing to have a much wider range of spells. Now, made up for the spells are some really cool techniques and combat abilities in your Ascension talent tree. There is a lot of cool stuff. Like actually, Prompto has a poison attack part of his bonus skill up combat tree stuff, which is, it's automatic, it's natural, it's not something that you go and you cast a separate spell and stuff. But there are lots of cool effects. The techniques are great. So there are different things that you can do in combat, but it's definitely more limited. It's weird. I don't want to say that as a bad thing, because it is a bad thing, but it's still fun, and it still has a lot of awesome stuff when it comes to combat, other than it being too easy or too hard. And I don't want to keep repeating that, but that is a big deal, and that's what made it really hard and frustrating to get through. But once, I don't know, man, I'm telling you, I have a lot of fun now, being more used to how things are working. Okay, so lots of notes on chocobos, lots. Check this out. This is crazy. And for real quick, I did finally, and I don't know how I got new colors for my chocobo. There was a point, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where I went back to the Chocobo Ranch. I think I was picking up hunt missions, and I went back to the Chocobo Ranch, and I was like, I'm gonna go see if I got any new colors for my chocobos, because I only had the white chocobo besides the normal dark yellow. So I went and talked to the chick, you know, that does customization for chocobos, and I had like 15 new colors. I had no idea how I got them. And I was like, whoa! And I was like, yes! And I just, oh man, I get, you know, and the cool thing is you can give each of your characters a different colored chocobo. So that, I was like, yeah! You know, and that's awesome. That's really cool. Let's see, oh yeah, chocobos make the open world feel far more comfortable and actually feel open world, because you can go anywhere with them, but you still can't go through like certain things like trees. There are actually paths blocked by trees, and there's a lot of weirdness to the game, which I've already gone over in my original review. I want to talk about the newer stuff, newer feelings I didn't go over in my. It's hard not to go a little bit of a recap because it is related to this new stuff. But chocobos, you know, they're definitely far more comfortable and make the game feel more open world because you're not limited to the roads like your freaking car. So that's really cool. So chocobo is summoned directly to you, not a mile away, and you know, not a mile away compared to like games like GTA or Watch Dogs, where like you summon your car and you have to run 2 blocks away to get to it. That is so damn annoying. Your chocobo never fails to, well, okay, maybe not never fails, but 99% of the time. It depends. Some areas are a little buggy-ish, and you can tell just by if you look around, you can kind of tell why it's a little weird, why the chocobo won't come directly to you, and you have to move like 10 feet away or something. It's really weird. But 99% of the time, a chocobo will be like pop right on your feet, and you just turn around and you just click on it and you're on it. I loved that. Very, very super cool, dude. Oh, this actually wasn't extra complaints. This whole, well, sort of. We will get into that. Yeah, because I do have complaints about the chocobo too. They won't stop for monsters. Yeah, and this is another thing that's cool about the chocobo over the car is that, you know, you can run through monsters. You're not, like, if you're in your car and enemies appear on the road in front of you, which happens at night, you will stop your car and you have to get out. And chocobos, you can just keep going. Can't listen to radio music while on your chocobo. This is a large complaint that I have. It's enormous. This is a big freaking deal, especially when your soundtrack is so amazing and you have over 200 tracks and you've been in your car listening to these amazing songs, and then you get on your chocobo and you're stuck with the chocobo song every time. And the problem with this, the reason this is such a big deal, is because once you get chocobos, you're on them a lot. I stopped camping all the time as much. Once I got a chocobo, I stopped camping as much for unlimited stamina, and I still, a lot of times I would still need that unlimited stamina, but you know, the chocobo was much more reliable, and that's how I moved around, so I didn't camp as often as I did without the chocobo. But yeah, not being able to change the music on the chocobo is terrible because of how much time you spend on it. You know, if it was like this little thing where you just wrote it a couple times here and there, sure, I guess, you know, I would still rather listen to the radio music on my chocobo, but yeah, so that really pisses me off because of how much time you spend on the chocobo. That's ridiculous. Cool thing about the chocobo, again, this is all chocobo related stuff there, you know, so I forgot to kind of order this as like complaints, and my bad. Leveling up chocobos will allow them to join in on battles. It's a not major deal. They rarely come in, but sometimes they will come in, they will buff you, or they will come in and actually like kick the enemy. It's rare that it happens. Very rare. So far from what I've seen. Like, I don't know if it happens more often on normal difficulty, but it's kind of neat. So as you level it up, it'll get new abilities. I think the level cap of the chocobo is level 10, which I have. But it's pretty neat that they do that. They'll either come in and buff you, or they'll come in and attack your enemy. Chocobos have a friggin' stamina bar, just like Noctis and his group for running away. They have a damn stamina bar for sprinting. Now, I would understand this if they did that for races, but not the open world. I just, for how much time you spend running, the stamina bar crap needs to be killed. It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. You need to be able to run full speed all the time, because it's not like some small world that you're running through and you don't need to sprint that often. You need to run everywhere, so stop with the damn stamina bar. I could totally understand it if you're doing like a chocobo race, then have the stamina bar, that makes sense. But in the open world, no. There's no. But there are, same as the group, you actually get food for your chocobos that they get a buff. I have not used this yet. I've been using the default food that you get for free. So I don't know how long the duration on the chocobo food buffs is. I don't know exactly how they work, but there are like foods that you can give to your chocobo when you camp. It's the same thing. It's the same thing when you camp. You pick which food you want to feed them, and they'll get like a boost in stamina or normal running and stuff like that. Chocobos drive like a car rather than on foot. It took me a few seconds to figure this out without reading the on-screen prompts, because when you first get in your vehicles, the on-screen little menu pops up, which would be nice if you could remove that one too. It's another thing that it would be nice if you could remove these from your HUD. But the chocobos drive like a car. At first, I thought I was expecting it to kind of control like as if I was Noctis on foot, but it drives kind of like a car, more like a car than on foot. It's just a little note that I had for it. Chocobo races only 1v1. This was really disappointing. I haven't beaten every race yet. I'm like 4 races in or 5 races in or something. And I'm on Ignis, and he's a tough bastard. I have to go eat food for my chocobo to beat him, I think, because I tried him twice. I could not. I didn't. He just kept boosting way the hell ahead of me, and I was like, what? But so far, they were only 1v1. And these are versus your teammates, your group mates, Noctis versus Gladio, Prompto, and Ignis. And that, as a starter thing, I'm hoping after I get past Ignis that maybe some more races will open up where we actually face, like, generic AI or something. Because it's Final Fantasy VII, all the little mini games, I played the crap out of them, and Chocobo races were really cool. I played those a ton. I had the gold chocobo in it, and I had Knights of the Round, so I did a lot of chocobo racing in that game. So this game was a little. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun. The chocobo races, the tracks are neat, but just the 1v1 thing was kind of dumb to me. There is a neat little hoops thing where you jump through like hoops through one of the races, and I was like, hey, that's kind of fun. So I need to get past Ignis to find out if they unlock a lot more stuff, because once you beat a race, you unlock another thing. So. And I'm stuck on it. After I got stuck on Ignis, I tried him twice. After I got stuck on him, I was like, all right, I'll come back to this, later. I'm gonna go keep playing the game. So I haven't been back to that yet, but that was something I wrote down real quick as a 1v1 kind of thing. It was like, it is fun though. Let's see, summons. Summons are terrible in how they're activated. Now, I went and looked this up online. I didn't write everything down on how they're summoned, but they're actually like key things in a battle. Like, one of them is pretty simple. It's like how long a battle goes on. If a battle goes on for a long time, you'll be able to summon one of the summons. Each of the summons has their own ways of when they decide that they'll come in. Like, one of them, your team has to be dying. Like, one of your characters has to be dead. Your other character has to be in danger. Like, it's terrible. It's such a terrible system. As I played through the end game, though, and how all summons were like a major part of the end game, it kind of made me think, oh, well, alright, so I guess you can use summons rarely in the open world, and maybe here and there, but the main focus on it is on the story, where you're going to get these guys help in order to face the end boss. So it seems like that. I mean, there's another little small thing that makes this different than other Final Fantasies, where in other Final Fantasies there's more magic spells to use, and summons you can just pull out whichever summon you feel like coming in whenever you want. Whichever your favorite summon is, you could keep, you can cast it whenever you wanted. And I'm talking like Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 7 is my most memorable. That's one that I always refer to. But, so I don't think Final Fantasy 13 had stuff like that. I'm not sure, because I didn't play through the whole thing. But that's where I remember back to, is being able to have all these magic spells and the summons and stuff. So this one is definitely much different. But I did get the idea that, okay, I can understand that they're meant for the final battle and stuff, but it was also just the way they're summoned in the regular world is terrible. And then also because it means you can't equip. Like, you can't switch which summon you would rather use. So, if you're in one battle, you use a summon, and then you're like, I kind of want to switch summons up, and then later on, you pull out your other summon. It's just RNG, or, well, not even, like, if you know how to force them to come out, then I guess you could do that, but it's just a terrible system. But in the final battle, oh man, blown away. Battles, I should say, final hours, like the final several hours of the game, I was just blown away. And final note, flying car practically as limited as it is on land. And this is a tricky one, because it is really, and I couldn't believe this. I got my flying car, and I was up all night again. I couldn't stop playing this damn game. I should have streamed it, but I was like, no, I'm tired. I'm just gonna chill. I'm just gonna play it, and I kept playing. I play up until 7 in the morning again. Got my damn flying car. I was actually like around 5 or 6. I was like, I need to go to sleep soon, but I'm so near the end. And then I kept going, and then I beat the game. And I was like, whoa, and I was blown away. And I was like, I'm gonna go get the flying car. So I was on for like another hour. I got the flying damn car, and my gosh, it is amazing. It's beautiful. It's like a freaking Batmobile. It's like Final Fantasy's version of the Batmobile. It's really cool looking, and I have a really cool decal on it. It's a Luna Freya picture. The thing about the decals on the Batmobile car, the flying mobile, is you cannot use the pre-built decals. You can only use like the side decals, the ones that you pick up. That's the first time I've ever used those, because I actually, for my car, I've been using the pre-paint job decal thingies. And you can't do that with the flying one, which sucks. But you do get to use your other decals. You can put them on the top, on the left and the right side. So I'm using the Luna Freya one, and it looks really nice. I actually like it. But anyways, so the flying car, it is awesome, but you can't fly low to the ground. You can't fly anywhere. It is such a weird, it's like flying on the road in the air. Almost. Not exactly. You do get to fly over lands and stuff. You do get, but it's a really damn tricky thing, and it's just another thing on top of the enormous list of why did you do this in this open world. Like, there's so many things wrong for an open world game, and then they go and do this to the flying car. You know, Final Fantasy 3 and 7 had better flying vehicles than this game, so it's so confusing and frustrating, man. It's like, what? It is really, really super cool. I'm glad I got it, and I will definitely be, after I got it, I flew around for like 10 minutes or so, and then I went to bed. I had to stop. I just wanted to check out the car, and I couldn't believe it when I got up there. I was like, this is amazing. And then I saw, like, you can't just fly low to the ground. You can't just, it depends on the map area that you're in. You can't, for some reason, there was a fort that I came to. For example, there's a fort, and it's over, like, there's this gap between mountains, from this side of the map to that side. But there is a fort. It is an area you can go to. You can actually drive there. But for some reason, you can't fly over the gap with the car in the air. You have to land and drive around it, and I didn't actually try that, because I was like, I don't care, I don't want to land and drive over there, I wanted to fly over there. So that, I was just like, what? So yeah, it's definitely a weird system. It's definitely, as a cool flying car, it's really neat, and it's cool to be able to fly around, but it actually will churn you certain ways, and it's definitely disappointing. It's a huge disappointment on how the flying car works. It's like, what? I wanted to be able to fly anywhere, dude. Fly low to the ground. And if I crash, I crash, so be it. You know, who cares? Let me die, man. Let me control my freaking flying vehicle, man. Come on, man. I can't even, like, the only time you can get low is when you're actually going to land your car on a road, right? You know, so if once you're low and you're close to the road, you can fly low that way, like along the road. But if you try to turn left or right off the road, it'll force you up high into the air. Oh my gosh. But anyways, that is all my extra notes. A little bit shorter than previously. I hope you enjoyed sticking around with me and listening to my thoughts on this. It's like I said, I had to start this video off, and I hope that I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say some of this stuff again, just so it resonates, hopefully, because I do mean this stuff. Final Fantasy 15 would have been a masterpiece. A masterpiece if it wasn't so jumbled and so many ways of the open world and the mechanics and stuff. So since it would have been a masterpiece, it's actually a beautiful game, worth playing. It's worth it, especially for fans of Final Fantasy in general, like people that have been following Final Fantasy, playing Final Fantasy games, especially for them, but also, of course, for people that want to look into the Final Fantasy world and stuff. But I would say, if you're new and you want to play an action game, put it on easy. I said this in my first review, put it on easy. Just play it. No, you won't have to. You'll barely ever have to manage your potions and stuff like that. That's a big part of Final Fantasy, potions and spells and all that. It's a major part. So that's why when you play it on normal, it's a big deal. But if you want to play action, easy mode, all right? Put it. It won't always be too easy. It's the same thing. The game, no matter what, is always either too easy or too hard until you out level everything. Oh, it's funny. All right. My mind was blown. It was blown. What else? I think there was one other thing I wanted to say, but I guess that would be it. It's a beautiful experience. I'm gonna keep playing it. I actually have updates coming up that are going to improve on Chapter 13. I don't know how. Oh yeah, there was this ring magic. The ring magic. Well, I don't want to get into that. I will say that I actually like the ring magic, especially on easy mode. I don't know. It's probably a pain in the ass on normal. But on easy, I like the spells themselves. I like the mechanics of the ring magic in Chapter 13. I liked a lot of the actual gameplay mechanics in Chapter 13. It was just the way it played out was really tedious and drawn out and boring. But the actual mechanics involved with it were neat, especially the combat. I actually liked using the ring powers and stuff. But apparently they're going to be buffing those in a patch. They're going to change a little bit of how Chapter 13 plays out, I guess. They're planning to add like limited time hunts. So, and these will be like, you already have like all these hunt missions in the game, and they're planning to add like daily ones or weekly ones, maybe monthly ones. So they're actually treating it like they want to have it so it has lots of replay value even after you've already done the replay through what's already in the game. They want to have like an actual live replay value, which that is impressive. That's really cool. I'm gonna be checking out the DLC. The season pass is only $25, which, well, compared to other season passes where now they're like $50 and stuff, but I don't know if I'll be picking it up, but I am definitely more interested in it now because of how much I love this game. It became a much smoother run after out leveling my enemies, and even around the same level, not just always being the highest level, but same level was more. It's something that I mentioned in my first review where the enemies are, I actually even talked about it a little earlier, the enemies they're so varied and so different. They're either too low level, too high level, they're rarely your level. It's very weird. Yeah, everything became smooth once I switched to the easy and the out leveled stuff. And it actually made, for me it just made it enjoyable because it's a weird game. It's a weird game, but it's beautiful. And I'm definitely, they're gonna have like co-op apparently, which is really interesting. So I guess it might be only 2 players, but it could be up to 4 players since there's 4 players in the group, and that's who you're gonna play as with the co-op. You're gonna play as the different dudes in the group. So I don't know, they have some pretty cool sounding updates coming up for the game. But overall, I think it's worth playing for both. I think honestly, especially longtime fans of Final Fantasy, because. And this is, for me, is why I kept playing it. One of the reasons, and it was just a weird experience, but one of the bigger reasons that I kept playing it is because I love Final Fantasy, and it is new, it is different-ish, but it also feels, it was Final Fantasy, man. Everything about it. It's more limited, especially when it comes to summons and spells. There's, it's a small, it's weird because it's a huger world, but there's like, you don't get to play as girls, you get less party members, you only have the same 4 characters the entire game, unlike other Final Fantasies, or earlier Final Fantasies, earlier ones, where you get a ton of characters and you can switch them out and stuff, But it didn't make it suck or anything, it just kind of, I missed it, I missed being able to switch out my characters and be able to play with different characters and all that. But this group of characters is cool, they had a nice bond, and that was pretty neat. I rambled there a bit more than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to be done already, but I did have a couple little... Anyways, definitely hate a lot of things about the game, but it's an amazing experience, especially as a whole. Once you finish it, I struggled, man. I struggled. 20 hours, I struggled. I had a hard time. I was saying I hate this game. Because there's so many things. It's not just like a couple small things. There's just so many things. so many things that are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But like, once I got used to the system, and it took a long time. I had to, yeah, great game, worth playing for both new players and especially longtime fans. Thank you guys so much for putting up with me and watching my video, and let me know what you think if you have any thoughts. But thank you for spending your time with me. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye. See you next time, hopefully. Bye.